Hi there, everybody. This is Phil Simborg from the Backgammon Learning Center, and I've got a guest with me, Matt Cohn-Geyer, who's also one of our great teachers, certified teachers for the Backgammon Learning Center, and of course, a top giant, one of the better players in the world, or one of the best players in the world, I should say. And the reason we're here today is to advertise the back. No, that's not why we're here. We're here to learn something. Uh, One of my students, and I'm a full-time backgammon teacher. One of my students sent me a match where he had a lot of challenging questions about a one game where the score was 4 away, 5 away, and he asked me to analyze it and give him a discussion. I thought, well, why don't I get some good help? I'm a pretty good analyzer, but I'm going to get some help from somebody who I know who's better, is Matt Cohn-Geyer, and we're going to look at 9 positions. One cube action possibility and the other checker plays. And we're going to find out, first of all, Matt has never seen this before. So I'm actually testing him as we go to see what he would do. And he might get them wrong. He might not get them all right. He's not 100%. And then after we see the right play, we're going to discuss why. But before we start, I'm interested, Matt. We know that the cube action is certainly going to be different at 4 away, 5 away, but you're saying it could also affect checker plays quite a bit. How is that?
Well, it depends, but for one thing, it depends on the cube position, right? Like if the cube is already given, or if the cube is on 4, then things start to get very different, right?
Yeah, if the cube is on 2, the leader can win the match with a gammon, and the
Right.
traitor can get to Crawford. So
So
the
gammons are somewhat more important for the leader than they normally would be at a further score where both people were further out than 5 away, let's say.
I got a feeling that most of the plays that I'm going to be showing you won't be matter that much for the match. It might be pretty much the same as for money, but we'll find out. So let's just get started. And I'm going to open Extreme Gammon, which is what we use for all of our analysis. If you don't have Extreme Gammon, you're not really learning the game. Go to www.extremegammon.com and download it. And I have a video that you can order that will show you how to use this program. It's the god of backgammon. It's better than anybody in the world, and it will help you learn the game really, really well. Shows you your mistakes, and that's what we're going to use today. Okay, so let's get started. I have these 9 positions that came up naturally in the match, and let's start with number 1.
Cool. Let's do it.
Stage. Good place to start. All right, to set the stage, the score is white is 4 away and red is 5 away. So the away score is what matters. In fact, it's 1-0, but I always put in the away score. And white has a 6-4 to play. And there's a couple of obvious plays. But first of all, I want to say from Matt, what plays would you consider and what play would you make?
So, fourth row position, right? It looks like we misplayed our 4-3, but that's okay. It's a 6-5, 6-5, 4-3, 6-1, and we should have gone 21-9, and instead we won 20-10. So there's 2 plays basically. You can go 24-20 and make the anchor and come down, which is very reasonable, or we could just make the 10-point. If we make the anchor, the best 6 is coming.
Whoa, wait a minute. What about making the 4-point?
Oh, making the 4-point? I didn't see that one, but okay.
Isn't that a third possibility?
Not really. Is it is it a possibility? I mean, like, you're using the wrong checkers because you have this big stack on the 6, and you strip the 8-point. So, like, I would be more inclined to make it if I rolled like a 4-2 or a 6-2, because then at least you're unstacking the 6. And he only has 1 man back, so like if we make the 4-point, like it's good if we can somehow attack, but like we're not really in position to attack.
Okay, well, we just helped my student because that was the play he made. Now, of the other 2 plays, which one would you do?
Well, if you make the anchor, the best 6 is coming down because that gives you the most ways to improve next turn, right? So like if you get missed, you're gonna either make the bar or make the 5 or make the 4. Like you have very flexible builders to make any one of several points, and making the bar is like almost guaranteed if you get missed. Whereas if you play the 24 to 20, then 10 to 4, like that's not a good use of a 6. So between the other two,
Well, let me interrupt you right there. What you've illustrated is what, like Paul McGrill used to say, I listen to the checkers and they tell me where they want to be. What
yeah,
you're saying is that checker wants to be on the 7, not on the 4.
I think with one man back, you're supposed to make the anchor and play to the 7 rather than play 20-10 because you're not like winning the race, right? Like I would go 20 to 10 if I was like winning the race, but like if you had 2 men back, then you're somehow like just trying to like run out and build a good position. But I think making the anchor is better when
Okay.
uh
Now, just for clarification, Matt knows right away what the race is because Extreme Gammon
correct.
shows the race. When you're playing over the board, you have to have a feel for it, and the race is important. Matt's one of the few players in the world that I know that keeps a running count of the race all the time from the very beginning. I can't do that and still concentrate on the game, but there's a few people, and Matt's one of them that always knows what the race is.
Yeah, I did start doing that at some point in my career, and it sounded silly to me at first. And then, as I was doing it, I started getting, like for different people, it's going to be different, but there's a lot of subtle things that I didn't realize before I started doing it. Like, I've just counted so many positions that I mean, the benefit is not actually just having the pip count on every roll, right? The part of the benefit is like I just look at a position and I'm like, oh, this looks close, or this looks like about within 5 pips, or this looks like 15 pips, and I don't actually have to do a pip count, and I'm usually within like 3 or 4 pips.
Well, I think the biggest benefit is showing off. I mean, when you're playing at a chouette with Matt and somebody says, "What's the pip count?" and he gives you the pip count before you finish the sentence, I think that's cool.
Usually I don't do it in a chouette, but like what helps me is, yeah, normally I only do it if it's like a tournament match, but what helps me is that I can like look at a position and just be like, oh, this looks close. And the other thing is that it helps me to focus on the game,
Yeah.
where like I wouldn't actually be focused on the position if I was just thinking about something else.
Well, again, you said it's different for different people. If I try to keep a running pip count, it takes away my focus from trying to play the checkers.
Yeah, so then I would not do it, right? But like, if you're you might find that if you actually just like I didn't think I was really going to keep up with it, but after I started doing it, I was like, I'm actually like playing better. So
Now,
everyone,
applying it to this position and many other positions, the whole point here, though, is the pip count matters. If he was up in the race, it's a different play than if you're down in the race. Even in plays like this, it could matter quite a bit. Okay, so your play again is what?
24 to 20 and 13 to 7.
Okay, now I'm going to look at the extreme gammon analysis by hitting plus plus, which is the highest analysis we can get without rolling it out, and it's pretty good. I'm not going to take the time to roll these out because then the video will take 4 hours. That's not really that slow, but it's a lot slower. So extreme gammon right now is playing this game out like 700 times, over 700 times. It's a little complicated, and it's going to say what the right play is just from raw statistics of how often you win and win gammons and games by playing one play versus another. And it's going to show us which play it likes. And it likes Matt's play. Matt's play is 100%. And by the way, the play that my student made, as Matt said, was very wrong. I'll plus that as well. Matt didn't even consider that. He said he didn't even see it. And I think a lot of people would make the 4 point, and it's almost a blunder. A blunder is 8%. So congratulations, Matt. You made the right play. The second best
Also,
play.
the other thing I should mention is that the 5 point is better than the 4 point. So if you can make the 5 point, if you can make either your 5 point or your opponent's 5 point versus making your 4 point, you should generally choose the 5 point because the 5 point is better, right? That's the main. That's one of the main
What you're
reasons.
saying is either 5 point is better than making your own 4 point.
Correct.
I got it.
The 5 point is a higher point.
Okay, you're batting 1,000, and I offered to give Matt a little incentive. I'm offering to pay him $1 every time he gets it right. Okay, number 2.
Or
Red
three.
has a
Oh,
4-3. Red has a 4-3 to play here.
oh, okay.
This is the
So
next
red
roll.
has a
You
4-3.
saw what my student did.
Yeah. So I'm like trying to find some plays. 13-6 is the first one that jumps out at me. What else can you do? I don't even know what else you can do.
Okay, so you play 13-6.
Yeah.
That horrible, terrible stack. Well, some players, I'm telling you, at lower levels would certainly hit 2 here. That's a possibility. Another possibility is coming up with the 4 and doing something with the 3, either slotting or down. My student came up with the 4. I believe he came up with the 4 and slotted with the 3. Your play is clearly right. Nothing else comes close or makes any sense whatsoever. I
Wait,
think,
was your student playing both sides, or do you have two students, or what's the idea here?
yeah, it was 2 students.
Okay, okay.
They were playing each other. What
Mhm.
I've done is I've matched up my students all over the world to play each other to practice and play challenge gammon, which I'll explain at another time.
Cool.
Yeah, and it
So
helps them practice.
yeah,
So
so okay, so you're outboarded, right? You have a 1 point board and he has a 2 point board. You have one man back. You're leading the race. If you look up McGrill's safe versus bold criteria, pretty much everything points to playing safe.
by the way,
And
McGrill's bold versus safe criteria had 3 criteria. Uh, uh,
there were a few, I don't remember them all. One was like if you have an anchor, that doesn't apply here, but
The
you know,
second criteria is who has more checkers to attack, and the third criteria is who has
that
more
wasn't
import points. But he left off, and Mochi caught this and gave it in a lecture that Mochi and I gave together in Cyprus. That McGrill did not mention in his criteria the race, and you mentioned it right
he
away.
didn't mention the race, but he said who has more men back, and generally that corresponds with the race.
I got you. So
Right. So
everything
he
here
he
points to
wasn't he
playing safe.
wasn't like unaware of the race. He just didn't like explicitly state it at the time.
Yeah.
But he did say who has more men back, which is almost always going to be the race.
Okay, the problem with the right play is it's ugly. You're stacking it like crazy. It's not pretty. You don't want to put another checker on the 6 point, but that doesn't take precedence over everything else Matt said. And
I have
that's
a I have another saying, which is never leave a shot.
well, you and I just played a game of Bazooki where I made I think it was a .28 blunder by leaving a shot when I should have made a really ugly play. So
Yeah.
I'm learning that. Okay, number 3. Cost me $100 too to leave
If
that
you're a beginner, that,
shot.
that never leave a shot is
Never leave it.
said with a grain of salt, right? There are times where you should
Oh,
leave a shot.
and by the way, the point is when you're playing a beginner and they have an opening 4-1, they're always going to play a 13-8. Never, they just don't leave the shot. That's one of the marks of a beginner. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Now we have a possible cube action situation. White is on roll. Should white double? And when we ask about cube action, we're asking 2 things. Should the player on roll double? And if the player on roll doubles, should the other side take or pass? So what are your
Right.
thoughts here?
Well, I start with would I take am I if I were in I start with the take or pass decision because that's going to be the last part of the action.
That's Woolsey's law, and I preach that constantly. Yes.
Right. And I say if I were in Red's position, would this be an obvious decision to me where I would just like obviously take or pass depending on you know. And it's not obvious to me that this is uh it's not an obvious take and it's not an obvious pass, right? So that would just there are some match scores where it doesn't apply, but I don't think this is one of them. Usually I would just be like that automatically is going to mean that I'm going to double because I don't even know what I would do if I were on red side. Um the reason I think it's a decently strong position for white is uh red has this I guess red hit twice with the 4-3, and now he's got this like completely separated position where he's got his ace point and a bunch of men back, and we're shooting at another blot, and his forward position just doesn't look very strong. I think you can still get away with taking because there are 4 fans, and also, you only have a 2-point board still, so like red can anchor somewhere, hopefully on white's 5-point, and there can be some sort of counterattack even if we don't fan. Like if we come in with like, let's say 2-6 or something, there could be some sort of red counterattack. But it looks like a very difficult take or pass decision. I think it's going to be like a pretty strong double and a close take is my guess.
Okay. Let's look at the answer. It is a double and a take. My student missed the double here.
Yeah, the separated 6 and 1 point.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a fairly sizable take, but also a fairly sizable double.
Yeah, and what Matt pointed out was the one of the worst things about Red's game is he's got 2 checkers in the ace point. That's a point you really don't want to make unless you're really blitzing and
Right. It becomes worse and worse the farther behind you fall in the race, the more men back you have, the fewer guys you have in the zone. Like this is basically like a blitz gone very, very wrong, right? He's only got 7 checkers going forward. They're all stripped and on not good points. He's got 3 men going backwards, and it's just the ace point is not what you want there.
So there's another reason to double, and that is you might get a pass.
Sure.
Matt was here's one of the best players in the world. He wasn't super happy about taking this cube. So that's another reason why Woolsey's law is so good. If you're not really sure you would take it or pass it, just give the cube. That's pretty much a good rule. It's a great rule, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
Matt, batting
I
1,000.
always start there and then I go from there. If it's an obvious take, then I'm like, okay, could I lose my market? And then, if it's an obvious pass, I'm like, well, am I too good?
Right.
But, otherwise, if it's not obvious to me what the decision is, then it's usually a good rule for at least a money game.
Very good. You're actually expounding all the things that I've taught you. Okay. Red to play 6-5. The cube's still in the center because he didn't double.
Oh, he's very happy that he anchored.
Yeah, the 5 is forced. He has to make this point. So let's make it easy for you. Now you have a 6 to play is the only question.
Well, you're not gonna be able to see the analysis correctly.
I'll put it back.
Okay.
I'll put it back.
Okay.
I just want to make it easy for our viewers to see what we have to do now. We have to decide the 6.
And we didn't double. So there are basically two legal 6s, right? I mean, there's 4 legal 6s, but there's only 2 that make any possible sense, which is either we play out to the 16, which leaves a 4-shot, a 3-shot, and a 1-shot. This would normally be able to play if we already had the 5-point, I think, because then we would just kind of play with 1 blot and try to get this guy to safety and contain white's back checkers. So I think it's normally the play if we already owned our 5-point. The only problem with it is
the other play that you might consider is coming down.
Yeah. I think I would do this because, first of all, the 3 and 1. So if we come out, we're leaving the 4, but we're also leaving 3s and 1s on the other side of the board. So we're kind of weak on both sides of the board at once. And we also have like no checkers to cover the 5-point with if we get missed. So this at least gives us a 2 to cover with if we get missed. And the 3 and 1, you know, they're kind of duplicated on the other side of the board. So
Okay, so
I don't really think
your
about
play is
duplication
coming
too
down.
much. Yeah, I would come down.
Okay, and it's right by a mile.
Hmm.
I think my student came out. We'll see in a second. And for all the reasons you stated, it's right to come down. You're just giving
But
him too many easy, good numbers.
can we check a variation?
Sure.
So if you move a checker from the midpoint to the 5 point and cover the 5 point, what's the right 6 now? I think it's coming out now because now you don't the checker coming down doesn't add anything to cover the 5 point with, and you're only leaving a 4 shot. You're not leaving 3s and 1s also.
Interesting. Let's see. By the way, I agree with Matt's play, and one of the main things I've learned in backgammon is the words "me too." You're playing you had or sitting there next to a giant like Matt, just say "me too," and you're going to be okay. And he's right. And look, it's so
No,
close,
it's extremely close. Okay, okay.
extremely close. But doing this kind of variation is a really good way to see the logic behind the play, the reasoning of why you did it. You test the logic. Like in one play, I thought you make this play because I'm down in the race. So I change it to where you're up in the race and see if that changes the play. You'll figure out if that's the reason that you did it. So this is a very good exercise. Okay, let's move on. You're still batting 1,000. And again, I'll repeat, Matt has not seen these positions before. At least probably see these positions 100 times while he's been playing. Okay, so white now has a 3-1 to play.
So 3 must come out. You have to get outfield control of some sort. Especially while he's on the bar, and you have no other like any other 3 is going to be destructive to your position.
Yeah, the three,
Right.
the three is obvious. The question is the one.
So the 1, you have 3 choices, and I don't know. I'm really not sure between. I wouldn't even necessarily think that this would be like a big deal, but I guess it is.
Well, if it was
7 to.
he had a few trivial plays.
Mhm.
I ignored. So you're right. There is a reasonable enough difference why I'm showing you this.
Right. So 7 to 6 cleans up a couple of shots from the bar.
Oh, by the way, the other reason I'm showing you this is I got it wrong. This is what I got wrong.
7 to 6 cleans up a couple of shots from the bar, like 1-6 and 5-2. You're not really worried about getting hit with 2-1, but I mean, I guess you still wouldn't like to get hit with 2-1. What are your other alternatives? Your other alternatives are to go 18 to 17. That's worse on double fives also. Does this gain anything?
You duped the fives.
What? What?
You've duped the fives.
I don't think like that.
Really?
Yeah, that's not a thing.
Wow.
um, uh, you're just leaving more shots, right? Duplication is like a counting trick where you want to see if you can leave fewer numbers. And here you're leaving more numbers. So like what does that mean?
And obviously the other possible play is
The other play is to go 22 to 21. Does that gain on anything? I think it just go 7 to 6 to like reduce the fly shots. I mean, you could get hit. Okay, you could get hit on the 18, but like you don't really care if you get hit on the 18, right? Like that's not a thing that you're really concerned about. Or yeah, you're more concerned about getting hit on your own 7 point, which
okay.
would
Let me
happen with
see the
5-2
answer.
and 1-6, and also double 5 could be weird if you
Yeah.
I feel like double 5 is I don't know, maybe double 5 is better for him if you go 7 to 6. Unclear.
Okay. Matt, you got it right again. And I left the shot on the 7 for a reason that for absolutely the wrong reason. I'm thinking, hey, I might be able to make the 7 point, which is not very much value in this position, really.
Correct. The 7 point adds almost nothing to your game because you're not trying to prime him, right? He already has the 20 point. So it doesn't really add to your, like, if he was back on your ace point, then yeah, you would want to like make the 7 and prime him maybe, but like there is no prime, right? He's already past your prime basically.
So I made a
So,
mistake that I've preached many times. We automatically make the 7 point on the opening roll with the 6-1. We keep trying to make the 7 point very early in the game, but later on, when our opponents advance, the 7 point has far less value. So don't
correct.
sacrifice for making the 7 point. I think that's a big lesson here.
It's nice as a landing spot to come home, but you're still far from coming home.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you mostly just don't want to get hit, and then yeah, it would set
Okay,
you back in the race, and you'd have no checkers to play with.
let's move on. You're batting 1,000.
All right, nice, nice.
Yeah, I picked the right guy to do the analysis. Okay, as you can see, we get to this position, and red has a 6-2 to play. Cube still in the middle. And by the way, after he missed that cube, he didn't miss more cubes. That turned out to be not a cube. His position worsened. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Doesn't really look like a cube now.
yeah.
Um, well, you can hit. If you hit, you only have 1/6, which is 13 to 7. Uh, what does that leave? So the nice thing about hitting is that you gain ground in the race. And gaining ground in the race is extremely important in mutual holding games. Uh, on the other hand, you do leave 3 blots against a 4 point board, and you leave any deuce plus 3, 6, 4, 3, double 3. That's 16 numbers, and double 4 misses. But double 4 is not a bad roll. So you leave 16 shots, 3 blots against a 4 point board. And you would
What's an
be
alternative play?
down 28 pips in the race. Well, the alternative play, you have to put the guy back on the 18 point or the 7 point, whatever you're. No, the white checker that's on the bar. Otherwise, this would be just a great. The only other play you have is to play safe, right? With 13 to 5. Mm. This is tricky. This is a tough play, but this is my natural instinct. I'm not super confident in this one, but I think I would play safe over hitting.
Okay,
And if I hit,
you're still batting 1,000.
okay. This is a tough play.
It's a tough play, and one of the things that I do. By the way, hitting is. Let's compare the two plays with plus plus.
Yeah.
So this tells us that hitting is not a blunder, but it's a 4.5% error, which is a reasonable size error. But that's not horrible. That's not a horrible error, but it is a tough play. I also wasn't sure at all, and I made the right play, but I had almost zero confidence because I just don't like the looks of this position.
Yeah, so if you go 13 to 5, you're stacking the checkers up, and you only have the spare on the 20 to play with.
Uh,
It's very tough to play your upcoming roll unless you roll like a 7 or a small
let me
number.
ask you
You
a
could roll a
question.
small number.
if the cube action had been right earlier and red was holding the cube, would it change the play in any way?
I think it would make it more clear to play 13 to 5, but I'm not 100% sure.
You're right. It's twice as bad now to hit.
Yeah,
Tell me
because now you can get gammoned.
they get gammon for the match.
Yeah,
Okay.
the gammon costs you more.
So again, that's another way we look at variations, change the cube, change the position a little bit and see what the logic is. The whole point of learning backgammon is not to learn what's right, but learn why it's right. And that's how you get better. Okay, let's go on. We got three more. Matt's still batting 1,000. And white to play 5-1.
Um, so we should not break our board. So what does that leave us with? We can go 21-16 and 17-16. Break the anchor. That that leaves double ones to point on us and some random numbers to hit loose and stuff. We're also losing the race. So like even if we somehow get away with this, we don't really want to break contact. Like we're not super happy to break contact. We could go 17 to 11, right? That's my natural instinct, I think. I mean, 5-4 is a bad roll for him. Double one is pretty bad. If we get hit with a 6, it doesn't look like we're am I missing any other plays? I don't think so, right?
No, those are the only two possible plays.
Yeah, I would do this.
Okay. Batting 1,000 again. And it's scary to leave a 6 shot. And this seems safer, but your point about the race and what your game plan is what it's all about. And look
Well,
what
leaving a 6 shot, I mean, it costs you if you get hit with a 6, but like you still have like a fairly decent game. Like he's got 5 checkers to bring around, one of which was on your 20 point. You know, you still got an anchor, you've got a point in the outfield, you've got 2 points open to come in on. So it's not like, getting hit with a 6, you're just like dead. You're almost 50-50, right? Like you're closer to 50-50 than dead.
and also one of the key things is the game your game plan. We always preach about what is your game plan, and because you're so far down in the race, your game plan is to try and you want to hold that anchor and try and get a shot. If you were up in the race, you might well move those 2 back checkers and try to race.
Right. And I mean, like, getting hit on the 4 point, it's it's probably better for you than getting hit with a 6, but on the other hand, uh
Yeah. And here what I did.
if you get hit on the 4 point and then fan, then you're really in trouble.
Yeah. So I changed the position where you're up in the race, and clearly it changes the play completely. So this is a real good example of how game plan theories has to come into your thinking all the
I
time.
mean, now he has fewer attackers also, so you're much less worried about getting attacked on the 4 point.
And even with one attacker, it's still right because again, you're up in the race. When you're up in the race, generally you race.
Yeah.
Okay. Batting 1,000. Very good, Matt. 2 more.
All right.
White to play 3-2.
32. Ooh.
Cube has been turned.
White owns the cube. So white is very close to a redouble, right? If he doesn't get hit this roll, or if red doesn't enter this roll, he looks like he's very, very close to a redouble. Well, I guess I should rephrase. If he leaves the checker on the 6 and red fans, then he has a strong position. If he lifts the checker, it's not so strong. But obviously, there is significant risk in leaving the checker there. Hmm.
Well, let's start with that, Matt. If you do leave the checker there, what would you play?
If you leave the checker there, you have to go 15 to 12. And then I guess 16 to 14. I
Because
guess 16.
you want a six to cover if he doesn't hit you.
Well, you get sixes, tens, and eights
Uh-huh.
versus just the four and the 10. I mean,
Okay.
I guess you could go to the 10 points.
Well,
You're, you're,
there's another play also. What's the original? I want to make sure I get the original right
was
now.
on 15 point.
You could just play this checker
That
here.
doesn't, that's not going to be good because this is fewer covers and you leave more shots.
Okay.
So there's just the other play dominates it basically,
All right.
right?
And
So like,
if you lift, the play is pretty obvious. If you lift, you're moving this three and this two.
yeah, I I I think I would lift. I mean,
So if you lift and he dances, do you have a cube?
no, but
No, you're down in the race. But with the other play, you said if you leave it and he dances, you might well have a recube.
yeah, that's true. But you're leaving a lot of shots. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would
Oh,
lift.
you're right. I just tried to talk you to the wrong play. I'm just see if I can get you to change your mind and get one of them on. It's right to lift by a ton. And if you don't lift, of course if you don't lift, look at this. It might be right. They're both horrible if you don't lift, so it
Well,
doesn't matter.
you gotta put it on a higher ply than just one ply. But
Oh,
yeah,
I'm doing that's what I'm doing.
it
I'm putting
doesn't have to be plus plus, but it has to at least be more than one ply.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
15 to 10 is worse.
yeah,
But
they're both horrible. So lifting is
yeah, we could check the cube action on fans. I mean, I guess so part of the idea is that you want to, holding the cube, you don't need to like immediately get to a recube. Like you can take your time to get to a recube, and maybe you
huh?
can reach an efficient recube later. You don't necessarily have to just redouble right away just because you fanned. Um, okay, so this is a pretty strong redouble
Yeah.
and still a take. And the other one is not going to be a redouble, but
Well,
mm,
again, the big downside of the other one is you get gammoned a lot when you get hit too.
correct. Right.
That's
You leave 14 numbers that are pretty devastating where you're almost always losing because, he's so close to being home and also you're uh, getting gammon a decent chunk of the time.
yeah, yeah. And he goes to Crawford and becomes a big favorite at one away, four away Crawford. What are you? You're 16%?
Yeah,
He's 84%
16%.
to win. Okay, so the gammon is a major factor there too. Okay, let's move on.
Let's see what the cube action is on the lifting play though.
The lifting play, if you lifted,
Yeah.
and this checker is here. Is
Just
this?
yeah.
I
Yeah. This
It can't be a cube. You're down 8 pips.
No, it's not going to be a cube. I just wanted to for edification purposes show what the difference is going to be. So the other play was like almost pass. It was like 1.0 and this is like closer to 50-50, but uh you can still use the cube later in the game and at least you're not leaving a bunch of shots here, right? You're only leaving one number as opposed to 14.
Yeah, one's a lot less than 14.
Yeah.
That much math I know well. Okay, last one. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I got to get to it by getting rid of this thing. Here we go. Let's see if you can end up with 100%. I would owe you $9. Man. All
Five,
right. Red to
three.
play. Red to play 5-3.
Five has to come from the back, right?
Doesn't
I
have
mean,
to.
if you play 12 to 4, then you're okay. If you play 12 to 4, then you're staying back and you're leaving a 3 shot in the outfield.
Okay, so you've ruled out any play but this 5.
Correct.
And you're right. Now, where's the 3? Do you continue or do you play inside?
Normally, I would think you play inside. You are winning the race. If you come out, there is 20 numbers plus 5, 2. 22 shots. So 14 misses. 14 misses. If you stay back, 6, 4, and double 5 are like very strong. And the other plays where it just like hits you loose and picks and passes and stuff like that, it's not as good as the 6, 4, and double 5. But it's still not too bad. Double 4 is pretty good. And here there's 28 shots, 29 numbers, so only 7 misses here, but some of them are going to leave returns. I think my 2 and 3 and 4 1. My instinct is to come out and hope for the 14 misses and also not have the 3 numbers that like point on me on the 6 point. But
You bet you nail it. You batted 1,000. I think this is I've done this kind of quizzes with John O'Hagan, with Stick, with a whole list of really great players. Steve Sachs. This is the first time anybody's gotten them all right. And that easy. And so I really want to congratulate you and to remind everybody that Matt gives lessons. He's one of the best teachers. As you can see, you heard the logic, you heard the reasoning behind it. It's a fantastic way to learn. And he also has all of our material from the Backgammon Learning Center to use to get he'll teach you how to apply Woolsey's Law, how to count market losers, all these other things that he's applying and you've talked about over the board. He'll break it down for you and teach you that at all levels of play. Matt is one of the people I strongly recommend to advanced players, in particular, simply because you can, if you're a beginner or a lower level player, you can get somebody for about half the price.
Yeah, I'm happy to also go into more detail on things and break things down on any kind of level, whether it's a simpler, easier level where we're just going over basic concepts like, when should you apply duplication versus not, or
I can personally attest to Matt's teaching skill. When he got out of college at Wisconsin, he moved to Chicago mainly to play in the Chouette and take my money. But he taught me a tremendous amount, and a lot of the material that we have at the Backgammon Learning Center has been added to and helped quite a bit with Matt's theories. And in fact, we even started to write a book one time on blitzing. We never got it done, but everything I teach on blitzing, I learned from Matt, and it's really advanced stuff. Oh, thank you very much again, Matt. I'm going to close this off now, and you can email me at phil@simb.org, simb.org, and I'll connect you with Matt and the right teacher for your level of play. And again, if you don't have Extreme Gammon, you're not really learning the game. That's the way to go. XG Mobile is also available to be used. It's a lot simpler position, but it's also very helpful on your on your mobile apps and on your iPhone. So thanks again, Matt, and we'll stay in touch and watch YouTube for more videos like this. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Phil. Take care.
Congratulations.
Nice.